All right. It's the sound of another Malarkey hour coming right at you. This is your host, Matt, and sitting across from me is my co-host, John. How's it going, sir?
Tip.
All right, let's get this podcast started. Well, John, we are a week away from Valentine's Day, your favorite holiday.
Absolutely.
So I thought, in honor of the holiday of love, we do one of our favorite segments here on the Malarkey Hour. Can you guess what segment we're gonna do?
Is there murder?
There is murder involved, sir. We're gonna do a little serial killer corner. And since it is Valentine's Day in less than a week, I figure we would focus on murders revolving around the holiday of love, John.
Let's just talk about for a second. If I seem bummed out, it's because I just lost some money on the Oscars.
John bet heavily on
I'll tell him what.
on a bunch of movies, and he feels.
Now it wasn't a lot of money, but enough to be annoyed.
John feels that the Oscars got it wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go. What are we doing?
All right, John.
We're supposed to murder somebody? What are we
No, it's gonna be murders that center around this joyous holiday celebrating love.
Corporate.
The first story, John, brings us to a surgeon by the name of Dr. John Hamilton, who murdered his wife on Valentine's Day 2001. So apparently, he came home. This is, I guess the story goes. He was coming home between surgeries, where he allegedly found his wife dead in a pool of her own blood. She had been strangled with 2 of his own neckties, and had her skull beaten so badly that pieces of her brain were exposed.
Alrighty.
So apparently, by their friends' accounts, Susan and John Hamilton had a happy marriage. But as investigators dug deeper, they found some clues that made them start thinking that Dr. Hamilton wasn't as innocent as they originally thought.
Okay. It's all my blood on me.
So, right. So actually, some of Susan's family did confirm that she was considering divorce. After she discovered that he was making some phone calls with a stripper.
Okay.
So I mean that's sort of gonna be a
The old leave your wife for a stripper.
Routine there.
Yeah.
So apparently, Hamilton, he was an obstetrician gynecologist. So
what's an obstetrician?
I think it has to do with women stuff. The OBGYN. When you hear that, I think that's what it's abbreviation.
Dude, I thought it was LGBTQ or something.
No, that's another thing.
It definitely defines it here. It says a physician or surgeon qualified to practice in obstetrics.
So going back to the night of the murder, or the day of the murder. Apparently, when he did come home, he supposedly this is the story that he told police, that he started trying to start performing CPR and try to bring her back to life.
I believe him.
Apparently, when rescue workers arrived, they found him hysterical and covered in his wife's blood.
Yeah.
He told them he had been trying to save her life. So this is what he said happened the morning of her murder. He said he performed his surgery around 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came home to exchange Valentine's cards with his wife. How lovely, right? That's the reason he came home between surgeries. He wanted to exchange Valentine's Day cards with his wife.
That's normal.
That's really normal, right? So around 8:50 a.m., he said he was beat because he was late for another procedure. So after the second surgery, he returned home to pick up his date book. So I guess it was long ago, the early 2000s, where people actually still had physical date books.
So
And
it was like calendar thing.
yeah.
Not like dates with strippers.
No.
Okay.
And that's when he found his wife. So going back to what started, giving police suspicions on maybe he did it. Other than I mentioned the phone calls to the stripper. So an important clue came in the card Susan had written to her husband, which had a handwritten note reading, "I bought my cards 2 weeks ago, so I guess maybe they don't seem as appropriate now. But I do love you. Have a good day, Susan." So that's the card Susan wrote to him. The note made police question whether the Hamiltons' marriage was as happy as it seemed, and they began to regard Hamilton as a suspect. There was no sign of forced entry in the house, and nothing was missing, making it unlikely Susan Hamilton, who was 55, was killed by a burglar.
I mean, sounds like a normal card to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But okay, so then you start considering, okay, did they have any enemies? So they did have enemies, both of them. So apparently, in addition to delivering babies, John Hamilton also performed abortions at his clinic, and Susan worked there too.
Is that what's the word? Is that hypocrisy or irony?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Deliver babies and kill them.
Kill 'em. Well, I mean, I think usually the doctors who perform the abortions are the ones that deliver babies as well.
Not trying to get political. I don't care right now.
John's a big pro-life.
Or whatever.
Or are you pro-choice? I always get the two confused.
Pro-choice means you can abort, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Whatever.
No, that's what you're gonna say. I'm sorry.
No, it is
About abortions.
I don't know. I don't want to get into abortion right now. Still pissed about the Oscars.
Okay, so apparently Susan worked there too, and anti-abortion protesters had picketed the clinic, and friends say even their home. So maybe they thought, hey, maybe one of these people was crazy enough to break in and kill Susan, since they felt like she was killing babies. John.
I mean, I didn't know Susan. So.
So the doctor had been targeted by a militant anti-abortion group, the Army of God, whose members have expressed support for the 1998 sniper killing of an abortion provider in New York State.
But he also delivered babies.
Yes. The group had faxed Hamilton a wanted poster the same week as the murder, and the doctor told Primetime he and his wife had both received threatening phone calls the week she was killed. I always took threats like that seriously, he said. You have to with what has happened in this country. So going back to the points on, like I mentioned earlier, Susan's friends had said that she was considering divorce. So neighbors told police that in the weeks before the killing, the Hamiltons had been having marital problems. That's when investigators uncovered evidence that Susan had found records of dozens of calls from her husband's cell phones to a topless dancer. And prosecutors say Susan told friends she was thinking about asking John for a divorce. So,
I mean,
but at that point, do you feel like if you're in John's position, John, you would kill your wife if she was going to ask you for a divorce?
I mean, no. Like I would think about that, but
I mean, I guess other than the fact that if they get a divorce, it's maybe a lot of lost money for him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not. Yeah, it's not like it's Jeff Bezos type of divorce.
And I don't know though. It's happened in Oklahoma, so I don't know what type of alimony laws they have there. If you have to pay your wife.
Oh no, we don't. There's not one in Texas.
No, there isn't. So, believing that Susan Hamilton's threat of divorce was enough to make the doctor snap, prosecutors developed a theory that the couple had argued that morning after exchanging the cards, and the doctor killed his wife. Much like The Fugitive, John, where he didn't kill his wife.
Yeah, but he was innocent.
Yeah. He was just obsessed with her. District Attorney Wes Lane later told the news. When he saw that this incredible woman was looking like she was leaving him, he lost it. Hamilton denies he was having an affair or that his wife wanted a divorce. He said he made the call to the stripper because she was in real need of attention, like most strippers are apparently. He said he absolutely did not kill his wife and that he's not the type of person to fly off the handle. I don't just snap, he said.
I mean, what does wife look like?
They're both older people.
Oh. And the stripper, does she come into play here or no?
Let's see. Okay, so let's go back to the murders. At trial, Lane told the jury that Dr. Hamilton started to clean up the scene, but was interrupted by the page from his clinic. Knowing that they were about to put his patient under anesthesia, Hamilton returned to the clinic, performed the surgery, and then came back home to finish cleaning up, Lane said. So the theory goes, after that first surgery, and when he came home to exchange cards, that's when he did it. He was going to clean it up. Got called back to the clinic, did the second surgery, and he came back, and that's when he, quote unquote, found her body, right? So Lane backed up his theory with physical evidence. Susan Hamilton's blood and skin were found on the steering wheel of the doctor's car, and a prosecution expert testified that his left shoe was spattered in a way that could only have happened while his wife was alive. Hamilton took the stand to testify in his own defense. He told the jury he loved his wife and tried to save her. He said the blood got on the steering wheel when he stopped doing CPR for a moment to move his car before the emergency vehicles arrived. His defense team argued that there was no direct evidence that Hamilton was the murderer, noting that no murder weapon was ever found. They said the police had focused on Hamilton too quickly and not paid enough attention to the threats from anti-abortion activists. It was those pro-lifers, John.
I mean, I think that... I don't know. Would you have moved your car?
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right?
Yeah.
Let me move my car and make it more convenient. Let me stop trying to save my wife's, from dying.
Yeah.
To move my car to make it more convenient for the emergency vehicle.
Could be a polite.
Yeah, he's very polite, man. So there was a surprise from the defense, John. So the defense also hired a respected crime scene investigator, Tom Bevel, as an expert witness. Bevel, an expert on blood spatter pattern analysis, testified that the blood found on the doctor was consistent with his account of trying to save his wife. However, before the trial, Bevel also found some blood spatters in Hamilton's right sleeve that the prosecution expert had overlooked. Bevel believed the blood pattern was consistent with what had happened if Hamilton struck his wife. So their own expert essentially finds evidence against them. He did not think it could have come from giving CPR. He told the news the spatters were almost a neon sign pointing towards the wearer of the shirt being associated with the beating. So their own experts find evidence that the prosecutors couldn't find.
I would find another expert.
Exactly, right?
A shady, bias expert.
At the trial,
who likes to lie.
Exactly. At the trial, Lane asked Bevel, who was the expert, if there was anything the prosecution had missed at that was pertinent. Bevel, under oath to tell the truth, told the court about the spatter in the sleeve and said it was consistent with Hamilton beating his wife over the head with a blood instrument.
Who hired you?
You could have heard a pin drop, remembers Lane. Moments like that in the courtroom just don't happen like that. They do on Perry Mason, but they don't in the real world. I think that in of itself caused a conviction. St. Clark Brewster, an attorney who was preparing Hamilton's appeal. It took jury less than 2 hours to convict Hamilton of first-degree murder, and he was later sentenced to life in prison. Bevel said he had no choice but to tell the court what he knew, even if it hurt the client who had hired him. Ultimately, you have an oath to tell the truth, and that overrides any allegiance I may have to any client. So, big twist in this case, John. The expert.
Where's the stripper?
Right. Yeah, I feel like they had called the stripper, she would have exonerated him. Helped exonerate him.
Probably.
All right.
I found her very persuasive at 1 a.m.
1 a.m. All right, John. Moving on to the next story. This you might be a little familiar with. A little bit more famous story. Do you remember an Olympic athlete named Oscar Pistorius?
Yeah, the guy with the leg.
The guy with the legs. So
Yeah.
Oscar Pistorius was a South African former professional sprinter and also convicted murderer. When he was 11 months,
Which do they say first?
was that
So which do they say first when you look up his name?
sprinter, and then convicted murder.
Yeah.
So Pistorius, you mentioned, his feet had been amputated when he was 11 months old due to a congenital defect. So when he was born, he was missing the outside of both feet along with both fibula bones in his legs. So Pistorius ran in both non-disabled sprint events and in sprint events for below-knee amputees. So he was the 10th athlete to compete at both the Paralympic Games and Olympic Games.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember some of this.
So, let's go to the murder itself, John. So apparently, in the early morning of Thursday, February 14th, obviously Valentine's Day, in 2013, Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend, South African model Riva Steenkamp, at his home in Pretoria. Pistorius acknowledged that he shot Steenkamp 4 times, causing her death, but said that he mistook her for a possible intruder.
I mean, after the third shot, you figured you probably figured out and be like, oh,
It's like Riva. Is
right.
that you? Pistorius' trial for murder began on March 3rd, 2014, in the Pretoria High Court. Where's Pretoria?
I'm gonna say California, but I could be completely wrong.
Pretoria is the administrative capital of South Africa.
I mean,
You're close, right?
basically,
And,
right there.
right by like
Just a short drive.
from San Diego. And,
Yeah.
So on May 20th, 2014, the trial proceedings were adjourned until June 30th to enable Pistorius to undergo psychiatric evaluation to establish whether he could be held criminally responsible for shooting Steenkamp. Judge Thokozayo Masipa agreed to a request for the evaluation by prosecutor Jerry Nell after forensic psychiatrist Meryl Forster testified for the defense that she had diagnosed Pistorius with generalized anxiety disorder. So,
I think I have that.
you do?
I don't know. I think I apparently have everything. It's not contagious.
You don't have the coronavirus?
Not yet.
Not yet. On June 30th, 2014, the trial resumed after the evaluation report said Pistorius could be held criminally responsible. The state prosecutor was quoted as saying, Mr. Pistorius did not suffer from a mental illness or defect that could have rendered him not criminally responsible for the offense charged. The defense closed its case on July 8th, and closing arguments were heard on August 7th and 8th. So on September 12th, Pistorius was found guilty of culpable homicide and one firearm-related charge of reckless endangerment related to discharging a firearm in a restaurant. He was found not guilty of 2 other firearm-related charges related to possession of illegal ammunition and firing a firearm through the sunroof of a car.
This is all after.
Yeah, it's all after. On October 21st, 2014, received a prison sentence of maximum of 5 years for culpable homicide and a concurrent 3-year suspended prison sentence for the separate reckless endangerment conviction.
This is for the wife?
This is for the
I'm sorry, girlfriend.
Girlfriend, yeah.
And, okay.
Um,
It's only 5 years?
only 5 years.
Not bad.
Yeah. For
I
murdering your
mean,
girlfriend?
Yeah, I'm not saying, like, don't do that.
Just
Yeah,
do it in South Africa, apparently.
I was going to say, does that have anything to do with the fact it was over there?
I don't know. Maybe it's a little different, right? So this was in 2014. So
Did he serve time here?
No, it's all South Africa.
Okay.
So so he was sentenced in October of 2014, right? So in June 2015, Pistorius was recommended for early release as early as that August. So not even a year later. South African Commissioner of Correctional Services Zach Modise told the BBC of the decision by the Case Management Committee at the Kogalsi Mapuro second prison in Pretoria, where Pistorius was being held. Under South African law, he is eligible for release under correctional supervision, having served a sixth of his sentence. After Pistorius served approximately 1/6 of his prison term, less than a year, his release date to house arrest was announced for August 21st, 2015. This release was based on good behavior and the fact that he was not considered a danger to the community. Pistorius was expected to remain under house arrest and correctional supervision, and was expected to perform community service as part of his continuing sentence. He has to do community service. That must have sucked. Regardless of his release from prison, Pistorius could not return to official athletic competition until the whole 5 years of his sentence was complete. On August 19, 2015, his release was unexpectedly blocked by South Africa's Justice Minister Michael Mastuda. According to Mastuda, the parole board's decision for early release was premature. Legal experts noted that the move was likely due to political pressure and had implications for other cases of pending early release. He was released from prison on October 19, 2015, which was 2 days short of a year after he was sentenced.
They're loosey-goosey with those laws out there.
Yeah. So apparently on the appeal of his case on November 14, 2014, prosecutors applied to the sentencing judge for permission to appeal the culpable. So they're trying to overturn the original verdict. Let's see.
So not only he served what he served, a year, a month,
two days short of a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they're still trying to overturn it.
Yeah, I guess it's just the convention part.
So he can run again.
Yeah, because during those 5 years he can't do any athletic.
Okay.
But that's not when it ends. So the second prison term, John. So on July 6, 2016, he was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment for murder rather than the original sentence of 5 years imprisonment for culpable homicide. Once again, he was incarcerated in the hospital wing at that jail. It was anticipated that Pistorius would be eligible for release on parole after serving 3 years of his sentence in 2019. On August 7, 2016, Pistorius was treated at the hospital in Pretoria after sustaining minor injuries to his wrist after sleeping in his cell. Let me skip ahead. Pistorius was briefly released from prison for 4 hours on October 14, 2016, through a compassionate leave license to attend the funeral service of his grandmother. So sentence appeals. Let's see where we're at the very end. Let me skip ahead.
So he was in prison.
For a year. So he's in prison. So Pistorius will not be eligible for parole until at least 2023.
This is still in Africa?
It's still in South Africa. It's a weird case.
Yeah. I mean, probably did it.
Well, I mean, he did do it. Do you think he really didn't know it was her?
Nah, the dude totally did it. 4 shots is a lot.
Was it only 4 shots?
I think he said it was 4 times that she got shot. I said 3.
Yeah, 4 times.
3 is possible.
But we could think 6. Yeah, 4.
Yeah,
you would think after the second. I can see like maybe 2 times. You're like, oh shit, but.
Yeah,
that third one's a little suspicious. It's like you would think by the second shot she's screaming out his name. Like it's not like it's me.
Yeah, no, I don't know. He's totally guilty.
So John, apparently, I don't know if you've ever seen the biopic, the unofficial biopic that was released on South African TV. It was called Oscar Pistorius, Blade Runner Killer.
I know they called him the Blade Runner. Yeah.
It aired on South African TV on November 18, 2017. The movie was made without the consent of either the Pistorius or Steenkamp families. So apparently the Pistorius family threatened legal action against Lifetime Movies, who I guess made the movie. The American Television, who produced the film. But yeah, it's a weird case.
Yeah, I was. Uh, I think it's easy to. Yeah, that guy's guilty. And he's still. When is he eligible?
2023.
Yeah, I don't know how shit works over there.
Yeah.
But
It's weird that they released him and then now he's back in jail. It's weird.
yeah. So that's why I was a little confused. I was like, he got out, and then they found new charges.
No, he's trying to appeal the original. But they just released them, I guess. I guess they have I don't know. You can get out of jail, but you can still go back. I don't know. I don't know how South African law
Get the
works.
fuck out of there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I went.
Move to another country.
Yeah, just go up to fucking. What is it?
North Africa.
No, where was the last murder?
Huh?
Where was the last murder?
What do you mean?
The city.
Oh, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
All right, John. So moving on from Pistorius. This next one involves Baptist missionaries. So on Valentine's Day 2013, Minister Nathan Leithold gave his children Valentine's Day cards before school. And then he shot his wife in the face.
Lovely.
It took a jury only 90 minutes to find him guilty of murdering his wife, Denise.
They always say if it's like a short jury time, it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or if that's something I just see in movies.
So let's. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. Let's. I have the transcript of his 911 call.
Okay.
So apparently, this is the call. This is Nathan's call to 911. So, the 911 operator. What's the problem? And then Nathan goes, we had a break-in.
Wait a second. Your 911 guy sounds just like Nathan.
Should I change my voice for it?
I mean, unless you want to confuse everyone, go ahead.
Okay. So is a pause to think. So the pause is indication the question, what's the problem, is sensitive to him, right? So why would he go, we had a break-in, when he's like, what's the problem? So 911 operator, is it going on right now? Nathan, I don't know. The garage door is open. There's glass from the back door. Somebody broke in. I'm not going in the house yet.
I know it's difficult to play two people.
So apparently when the police entered the house, they found Denise, the wife, dead by gunshot in the head. Nathan told them he had 3 handguns, his .22 caliber Beretta, and a 40 caliber Glock, and they were both missing. Denise was killed with a 40 caliber. So after Nathan called 911, he repositioned his car in the driveway to face away from the house. So inside his car, the detectives found foreign currency, safety deposit box keys, and passports.
It's like a new identity kit.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me go back to who this lady is. I don't know who this lady is.
I think, I don't know, what do they call it? Like murder and a crime of passion or some weird shit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that like a real charge or is that just like a name for
Crime and passion. I mean, it's. I think it carries less of a sentence than like if you plan the murder.
Okay, so it's like it was just like in the moment.
I guess people give you a little bit more of leniency when it's like, hey, you came home and you found your wife having sex with another guy, and you kill both of them. It's like,
right. Yeah, but if like you came home and then you saw it and you planned it for 3 days.
Yeah, it's more of like, well, you knew what you're doing. Like you had time to reconsider and you didn't. So okay, going back to possible motive. So prosecutors, their theory on possible motive is he killed his wife as a Valentine's gift for his Lithuanian lover, Aina Doblet.
Okay.
It's a nice Valentine's gift, right? I usually, get flowers, but I mean, murdering your wife,
I'm
that's taking a little extra, right?
not good at gift giving, so I mean, I can't argue with what he did.
So going back to that day,
something different.
going back to that day, the lover, around 3 p.m., the lover, Aina Doblet, wrote a message to Nathan. He replayed, "I can't now. Police checked. It looks like the house was robbed." She wrote back, "Interesting," smiley face. It's on the text. Prosecutors believe that Aina's lack of concern regarding the break-in proves that she knew that Nathan was going to kill his wife and staged the crime scene.
Smiley face, a little weird.
Yeah. So here's some excerpts. Of Nathan's 6-hour interview with the detectives. This is from 6 p.m. of the day of the murder on February 14th to 12:30 a.m. the next morning.
Just read all 6 hours.
Right. So this is Nathan Lithold. I'm trying not to think about nothing. I'm trying to not think about nothing but the kids, about nothing but the ministry. What we do is everything is so tight together as unintelligible family. One thing, it's all a house of cards. She is the main one to hold it all together, and I'm trying to shut off the thoughts that says what happens was supposed back in May, and it's an unintelligible, the window. What happened with this? I can't go to Europe and hold with kids by myself and be full time, so everything I'm trying to hold that off. I want to get this done. I don't want any more long agencies out of the room. I want to get this done. Somebody has, and it's unintelligible, the kids. I'm trying not to get upset. I don't mean mad. I mean upset.
I believe. It's funny, right? I'm trying to be like guilty, not guilty, just like randomly.
I don't want to say something that would be misconstrued. I don't like all these rights warnings. It's like he's still talking to the cops. You can't tell me things about her, and I'm not unintelligible. You can't tell me things about her, so.
Just keep saying unintelligible.
This is the detective. I'm telling she is dead. And then he says, "You told me." Detective, do you have any personal problem with anybody? Nathan, no. Detective, does your wife?
My wife.
Does your wife? Nathan, no. Detective, was there anything of extreme value? Nathan, in the house? Question mark. Excuse me. Detective, in your room, in that room in particular? Nathan, I had 2 watches, and a couple hundred dollar watches, nothing.
And a cheap wife.
Detective. Okay, what about money? Nathan, no. Detective, do you know why anybody want to broke in there? Nathan, I have been trying to ask the same question since I pulled in the driveway.
And he moved his car out of the way.
Detective, this is the problem I get. She has been shot in the house. Okay, I need to figure out how the car get to Robinson Park. Okay. So apparently, Denise's car was found in a park close to the house, and an inexplicable finding in a murder relating to a burglary. So why would her car be somewhere else if this was a burglary murder? Detective, I'm just trying to figure out how many sets of keys are out there because I'm trying to find a set of keys. Nathan, I know there's one set of keys, and whenever I have borrowed, whenever I got the car to go get something fixed on, unintentionally. He says that a lot.
I was gonna say three times.
Chains or not, I just asked her for the keys, and she gives me the keys, or she says they are on the plate. Because they have a plate for keys, John.
Yeah. Key plate.
Detective, was your vehicle, now the detective's saying it, unintentionally at Robinson Park today? Nathan, my vehicle was at Robinson Park today. Yes.
Intentionally or unintentionally?
Detective, for what? Unintelligibly this? Nathan, unintelligibly this morning. Never. It would have been before before I came back at the house.
What does unintelligibly mean again?
You can't understand. Detective, what was it done for? Nathan, I pulled over to take a phone call.
Okay. No, I mean, I get it. It makes more sense than the Valentine's cards.
Detective, it's not a coincidence that we have a missing .40 caliber Glock handgun, and there is evidence that leads us to believe that your wife was probably shot with a .40 caliber gun. Okay, and then furthermore, to have her car down the street at the park, right, where you failed to tell us that you were there prior to going home earlier that day. Nathan, it was a short phone call. I didn't unintelligible. I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I figured
unintelligible.
Yeah.
A detective. I know, but I mean, the thing is, we're talking about things that day. Once you start piecing things together, we're trying to figure things out. Nathan, I understand. Detective. Okay. So if you were at the park, the exact same park your wife's car was at, I need to figure out how your wife's car get there. Nathan. Okay. I don't have the answer. Detective. You don't have a key either. Nathan. Correct. So apparently investigators found the second set of keys at the Robinson Park in a trash can. So Nathan. So I called. She didn't answer. No big deal. She was driving. So send text messages. I don't know what to think. She is not answering my phone calls. She is not answering my mom's phone calls. She didn't go to the school. She didn't call. Where is she at? If she is late, if she broke down, she has a flat tire, she would call my cell phone. I went to all this 100 options on my head. Detective, I would love to think you're a God-fearing man and you would never do that. But, Nathan, you do have a preconceived idea. Detective, no. Trust me, I do not have a preconceived idea, but when I'm painting a picture and I'm trying to put the pieces together, okay? As a homicide investigator, I have either rule you in or rule you out. Nathan, and you want to rule me in based upon... Detective, no. I would rather rule you out so I can move on. Rule you out? Nathan, you're ruling me out based upon what? Detective, Baz, ruling out, I want to rule you out because I hope you didn't do it. Nathan, and you want to rule me in.
Okay.
Nathan, I want to get back to my kids now. I can't leave them all that long. Nathan, okay, so apparently Nathan chose not to testify at his trial, but he did speak to Dateline NBC after the sentencing, showing how manipulative and self-centered he was. Apparently, this is what he said. I was in 3rd grade, she was in 4th grade at the time, and I doubt she even knew I existed. But even then, I thought she was the cutest girl in school.
One day I'm going to kill that bitch.
Right? So, this is the reporter for Dateline. What was that you liked about her so much? Nathan, it was the curly hairs and the bouncy curls and just happy-go-lucky smile in junior high. They began to see your character and what kind of person she was that way. Her parents didn't believe in dating, so we were just good friend. And I went to her church activities. She came to mine and saw each other at school, and that's how it all started. She was my first girlfriend and my only girlfriend. I looked at Denise's mom at the time, and I saw what she was at. She was as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, and I saw that Denise really favored her mother, and so I said, that's what I want.
Now I believe him.
Right before we did our vows, Denise had prepared a song talking about everything that she wanted was me, and that our marriage is going to be that kind that she had always hoped for and dreamed for as a little child. And unintelligible. A wonderful day. So, yeah, it didn't take long for him to be convicted.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I probably did it. But, yeah.
So, going back, so like I said, it took the jury only 90 minutes to find him guilty. So apparently Leopold had laid in wait, obviously, for his wife to return home so he could fire a gunshot right through her head. Investigators found that he made hundreds of internet searches about how to most effectively kill somebody. He had Googled how much poison a human body could withstand and how to quietly fire a .40 caliber Glock handgun.
You don't want to see my search history.
And apparently he had used his children's college fund to pay his mistress hush money to not tell the police they were having a sordid affair. The mistress was at the house often teaching the children Lithuanian. He was sentenced to 80 years, John.
It's a long time.
Yeah. That's such a life sentence, right?
I don't know what a life sentence is. Depends on the state, right?
No, but I mean, like 80 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much.
Like,
you won't get out before you die.
Probably not.
Right. Unless you're one of those, like, he's like the oldest man in the world type of stories.
Tom Cruise.
Okay. So next story, John. This one involves a woman, Stacy Shoek. And this involves her fifth husband. And apparently Stacy wanted her fifth husband dead. But she wasn't sure how to do that. So she decided to hire a personal trainer.
Google.
And you want to try to guess what this personal trainer's name was? Or how he was known as? He was known as Mr. Results.
Okay.
That's her personal trainer's nickname, Mr. Results. And he moonlit apparently as a hitman. So he hired him to take out her unsuspecting hot air. Apparently her husband was a hot air balloon enthusiast.
Nice.
It's
like one of those titles on the weird ass shows where there's like Bigfoot expert. It's just like, wait.
So apparently, she paid this personal trainer to shoot her husband dead on Valentine's Day after luring him with the promise of a romantic evening marking the anniversary. Mother of three, Stacy Shoek, 38, was the mastermind of the murder of her fifth husband and adopted father of her children, hiring a hitman through a woman she met at work, who shot him dead on February 14, 2010, in an isolated spot in a local park. On the third anniversary of Rachel Shoek's death and his wife's third month behind bars, his family have told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution their hatred of the woman, who instantly became a member of their family before turning murderous. Richard was always there. His sister, Carol, told the paper he would help anybody to do anything. It will never be behind this. So, apparently she told her husband that she wanted to exchange Valentine's Day cards in a public park, and that's where Mr. Results shot him, John. She gave the hitman $10,000 for the service and immediately claimed her husband's $500,000 life insurance policy.
Case closed.
Right. Unfortunately for her, she had arranged almost the entirety of the crime via phone calls, which the police got recordings of. Stacy will be spending the rest of her Valentine's days in federal prison, along with Mr. Results and a work colleague who helped them plot the senseless murder. So
Mr. Results was not in on it, right? He was a real. How did they record that?
I don't know. That's interesting, right?
Yeah. There are people like, it is funny when they do catch the wife. There's some hidden camera stuff where they catch the wife.
Because they hire somebody and then that person's like,
yeah, but they're usually like the killer's working with the police.
Yeah.
So in this one, I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah. So apparently, John, going back to how it was arranged. So the arrangement was set up over a meal at a Mexican restaurant between the two women. So this is the coworker that put her in touch to Mr. Results. The prosecution alleged Shoek gave Ross a house she owned and paid Coleman.
Two chicks that both want their just casually like, oh, you need your husband dead? No big deal.
I know a guy.
Yeah,
so apparently she gave this lady a house that she owned and paid Mr. Results $10,000. I think Mr. Results got sort of gypped on the deal, right?
Yeah.
He's doing all the work. So Shoek admitted to having an affair while she was being tried, and eventually admitted that the plot against her 46-year-old husband. And she testified against her co-accused to avoid the death penalty. But she was sentenced to life imprisonment. So apparently, this is where the phone records, I guess just phone records reveal communication between the three suspects before, during, and after the crime. And prosecutors also alleged the trio went on a dry run to scope out the scene ahead of the Valentine's Day attack. Ross, the coworker, never admitted her role in the killing, but was sentenced to life. Cole pleaded guilty and will also serve life in prison. To add further insult to her late husband's family, Shoek's one defense in court was to claim her ex-husband had molested one of her sons. Something later was squashed with evidence from the children, one of whom told he missed Daddy Richard, that's what they call him, I guess, who had adopted them all.
So Mr. What's his name? Wonderful? What's his name?
It's the results.
His results also got sentenced.
They all got sentenced to life in prison.
Funny to meet like another, like if I didn't know you and I just be like, hey, you gay, you know someone who can kill for me? I'm like, yep.
I know somebody. He has a good name for it too.
Yeah. You know, it gets somebody who gets results.
Right? Like, okay. So moving on. This one involves a woman named Tiana Notice and her boyfriend James Carter. Actually, you know what I was saying. Let's skip that one. Sorry, I pulled that one up. Let's move on to the next one. I'm sorry. So this one actually is an unsolved murder, John, from 1971. So on Valentine's Day in 1971, 19-year-old Jesse McBain and 20-year-old Patricia Mann, they spent their last holiday together.
Why? Did something happen?
Yes, John, I would tell you. So the two lovers accompanied each other to a Valentine's Day dance at a local hospital, but neither returned to their beds that night. The police
Were they both fine?
the police
Were they both okay?
The police initially ignored the case, assuming the couple had just run away or eloped. And only a few days later began an investigation that yielded no results. So a few weeks later, a local surveyor found two bodies tied to a tree, still lovingly leaned against each other. It was Jesse and Patricia.
Oh,
shocker.
Jesus Christ.
Marks on their necks and bodies indicated that a rope was tightened and slackened around them multiple times, implying some sort of sick torture. Because their kidnapping and death happened in different countries, multiple police reasons were involved that oftentimes were reluctant to share information with each other. No suspects were ever brought in, and the murder remains at large to this day, until not too long ago.
What do you mean different countries?
I think they meant different counties.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So
it's two different trees?
No, I think their kidnapping happened. They were in one county, and then their bodies found in another county. So apparently there was a possible break in this case. Not too long ago, John, like about 2 years ago, reading a story. In Orange County. Sorry. So
You're good. I'm just trying to think. They were in two different counties. They weren't together that night?
they were together. So I guess it happened in Orange County. Let me see. I'll read the news article that I found.
So they were together, but then, okay.
So let me read the recent article that they think there's a break in the case. So a missed curfew, John. Two young people. They've been described as lovebirds. She is 20 years old, a nursing student at Watts Hospital in Durham. He is a 19-year-old freshman at North Carolina State University. They're getting their education behind them. They're starting their life. There's talk of engagement in the near future. The date was Friday, February 12th, 1971, 2 days before Valentine's Day. It was a cold night in central North Carolina with misty rain falling throughout much of the evening. There was a dance on the campus of Watts Hospital that night, and Jesse McBain made his way from his parents' home in northern Chatham County to Durham to visit his girlfriend, Patricia Mann. Jesse was not supposed to have the car that night, Detective Horn said in a recent interview. He and his brother shared the car, and it wasn't his night. He made a deal with his brother, and they traded days, worked it out. So at the last minute, Jesse gets the car. He talked to Patricia. The dance was on, so they go to the dance. At approximately 11:30 p.m., McBain and Mann left the dance, and Mann signed out of her dormitory, which extended his nightly curfew from midnight to 1 a.m. in order to accommodate the dance. They go parking to a nearby Lover's Lane near the present-day neighborhood of Crowsdale. At the time, developers had cut numerous cul-de-sacs into the neighborhood, but they hadn't yet built the houses. The rule was, if the nurses wanted some private time with boyfriends, They would go to a close-by area they knew. The unwritten rule was if somebody was in a cul-de-sac, you go down to the next cul-de-sac. But many of the girls had their spots. It wasn't etched in stone, but it was kind of unofficially, this is ours. So McBain and Mann never came back. So the following Saturday morning, it was quickly determined that Mann didn't return the night before. That was highly out of character for Mann, who was described by all as a responsible young woman who wouldn't miss curfew and not return to her dormitory at night without a reasonable explanation.
She was hanging out in those cul-de-sacs.
Right. The girls knew that this was not Patricia. She was a good girl. Jesse was a good guy. By everybody's account, they knew something was wrong. They called local hospitals asking if there had been a car accident. They made efforts to file an initial report with the Durham County Police Department within hours of Mann and McBain not coming back. So this is the Durham County. Some of Mann's co-workers at Watts Hospital went out looking for her and her boyfriend. They go to the Lovers Lane area where they find McBain's car abandoned. The automobile is sitting in one of the empty cul-de-sacs. Their coats are in the back. Everything appears to be normal. Nothing in disarray. There are no signs of a struggle. So back in those days, cars had triangular vent windows. Remember those? Where you would you had a little handle and they
turn
would,
it?
Yeah, and then they would go out. Remember those?
Yeah. I still probably might.
Some of your cool cars.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had those cars that could be pushed in and out. It was unsecured, so one of the girls was able to reach in and unlock the car to see what was going on. Nothing seems overly out of place, aside of the fact that Jesse McBain and Patricia Mann are nowhere to be found. At this point, the Durham County Police Department gets involved. The initial thought was that Mann and McBain may have eloped. The case, originally deemed a missing persons case, began to evolve into a full-blown investigation. No one knew at that time it was a homicide, but it became fairly apparent within a day or two that something was not right. For nearly 2 weeks, a forensic search was undertaken while Durham and Orange County, so this is where the two counties come involved, while Durham and Orange County detectives worked numerous leads in an effort to locate the missing pair. Excuse me. But 12 days after McBain and Mann went missing, on February 25th, 1971, a surveyor working in the heavy wooded area along a one-lane dirt road found what he initially thought was a mannequin. There was a leg that could be seen sticking up outside of a pile of leaves, but when the surveyor got close to it, he realized it was actually a human body. McBain and Mann had been tied to the tree, like I mentioned before, with thick knots around their head and hands. The victims were strangled. McBain was still wearing his class ring and watch. There was no signs of theft or any type of sexual assault. Patricia had an internal injury where she may have been punched hard, kicked, or stomped.
So they did not elope.
Did not elope.
Okay.
No. So after locating the bodies, an extensive investigation began, and this one involving both of the counties, Orange County and Durham County. Also the State Department of Investigation and the FBI. And what was then called the Department of License and Theft, which would eventually be rolled into the North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles. I don't know why the DMV became involved. I didn't know the DMV did murder investigations, but
FBI, DMV,
DMV. Right? That's weird. I guess the North Carolina DMV is very ambitious, right? They'll handle anything and everything.
Right.
Regrettably, there was an overall.
It takes a long time.
Regrettably, there is an overall lack of collaboration on the part of the law enforcement agencies at the time, resulting in an investigation that didn't put the entire picture together for decades. Everybody individually worked on the case. It didn't catch a whole lot of traction. There was a lot of work done, but it was individual. Not a lot of information was being shared by the various agencies, but there was some missed opportunities. There was a ton of initial suspects that were developed. But in talking with some of the retired detectives, as well as looking at the paperwork, it was clear the overwhelming majority of these suspects weren't realistic. This is a horrible crime. Who lives within 5 miles of the area, who was mean as a snake, or would have done such a thing? The names on the list, there was nothing to substantiate that. It was just a name, so that slows them down a bit, and they have to work through it. As the dust started to settle, however, a handful of promising suspects emerged. Some of those were later cleared by the case officers based on polygraph tests. Some were not cleared. One in particular was a doctor at Watts Hospital who knew Patricia Mann. He He has been a focus in the case, and Detective Horn says he is still a person of interest. The doctor has repeatedly refused to cooperate with the authorities. And this is where sort of the break comes in. Technology offers a hope, John. Although no one has ever been charged with these heinous crimes, there remains a possibility that the Orange County Sheriff's Office could eventually catch a huge break in this case. MVAC is a wet vacuum DNA collection system that was originally designed to determine possible pathogens in food samples. Similar to a handheld carpet cleaner, the MVAC system can extract DNA from different places, such as inside the knots that were used to tie McBain and Mann up to strangle them. It's basically an industrial type of carpet cleaner. It sprays the solution out, and that fluid is captured and condensed down onto a filter. And then all the DNA profiles on that have to be extrapolated. Only 80 MVAC machines exist in the world, with 40 in the United States. We have the ropes where the victims,
Amazon.
right? We have the ropes where the victims were found individually and then lashed around a tree to one another. Horn said the rope has been preserved and protected. So after 47 long years of futility, there remains a chance that this case could have some closure. That potential suspect could be taken into custody and tried for these brutal murders. What a horrible tragedy, especially for young kids just starting out their life. To be kidnapped and abducted from a lover's lane, transported to a second lover's lane, and then marched up a small embankment, bound and tied to a tree and strangled. We believe we've had a lot of consultants look at this. Everybody's in agreement. Somewhere on that rope, you're going to have a suspect's profile, and this new technique is the best one to obtain the DNA, so we're very hopeful.
So it's a vacuum cleaner?
It's a vacuum cleaner, John. The best vacuum cleaner in out there. So
The county.
the county. But that is the last article on it. So I don't think they found anything.
They lost the vacuum
They
cleaner.
lost the vacuum cleaner. Yes.
That is like a weird, hard, gruesome type of event. Tied to a tree.
Tied to a tree together, right?
Yeah.
All they wanted to do was get it on in a secluded, unbuilt cul-de-sac.
She was a nice girl, right?
She was the nice girl, yeah. So apparently she wasn't so nice.
Let's see.
Okay. One last one, John. This one is probably the most brutal of all these stories. So on Valentine's Day in 2007, Stephen Grant notified a local police precinct that his wife, Tara Lynn Grant, was missing. So after interviewing Stephen, police discovered that there was a 5-day gap between when his wife went quote-unquote missing and when he reported her disappearance.
Got shit to do.
Yeah, Stephen Grant immediately began on a media bonanza, appearing on tons of shows and accusing the police of harassment.
It's one of those shows, Bonanza.
Bonanza, yes.
For the younger viewers.
Yes. So going back, so apparently between 5 days. So so he contacts the police on Valentine's Day, but apparently she had been missing since, I guess, February 9th. And so in his account to police, Grant claimed that this was not the first time Tara had disappeared, which is why he hadn't immediately reported her missing. He claimed that on the evening of February 9th, he had overheard Tara talking with somebody on the phone, telling them, "I'll meet you at the end of the driveway." He said then he saw her get into a dark-colored car, which drove off, and he has not seen or heard from her since. So over the following 2 weeks, Grant made numerous media appearances to Bonanza, at times accusing authorities of harassment. The day after reporting Tara missing, Grant was stopped by police and arrested for driving with a suspended license. He accused police of using the traffic arrest as an excuse to take him into custody to further question him about Tara's disappearance. Police denied the accusation. So the search for Tara ended on March 2nd, 2007, when police used a search warrant to look through the Grant home in Washington Township.
Guessing she was just fine.
The examination,
Like, hey.
yeah, they found her in her bedroom. It's like, not missing. No, John. The examination turned up a portion of Tara's dismembered body hidden in a plastic bin in the garage.
I got that wrong.
So while police were still searching the house, Grant fled the scene. Like, oh, we forgot to put somebody on Grant.
Yeah. Super competent.
Yeah. 2 days later, after tracking a cell phone call made to his sister, police found Grant in northern Michigan's Wilderness State Park. He had apparently spent the night in the freezing cold, and after being taken into custody, he was airlifted to an area hospital. However, recuperating in the hospital, Grant confessed to police that he had a shocker, strangled Tara to death on February 9th and later dismembered her body. So,
Guess that's pretty open, shut, close. What do they call it?
yeah.
Is that even what they say? Open?
Open and shut case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he was able to run away.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's
As you can guess, he was found guilty.
yeah. Usually when you plead guilty, they tend to agree with you.
He was sentenced to 50 years in prison, though.
50.
50.
And she. So he cut her up, right?
He cut her up into little pieces.
Oh man. Start watching Autopsy Files.
Yeah. Wow. There it is, John. The last of the grisly Valentine's Day murders.
That's all were lovely. Definitely.
Valentine's Day is such a nice day to if you're gonna kill your loved one, do it on Valentine's Day.
Sure.
Right?
Comes directly from you, not me.
Nah. All right, John. So, with that, before we leave, do you want to give any words of encouragement to all our lovers out there, all the people in love for this Valentine's Day? What words of encouragement can you give all the lovebirds out there?
I don't know.
Don't murder your significant other.
And
That's a given.
don't get caught.
If you're gonna do it.
Yeah, don't do it. But if you're gonna do it, don't get caught. That's unofficial. I don't just be smart about things. In fact, don't do it. We don't want to encourage murder. But you know what I mean.
Okay, so maybe get a little bit specific. If you want to give any words of advice on sustaining a loving relationship, since we are approaching Valentine's Day, what would you give all the little birds out there, John?
Right. If you can't have her, no one can. No, I don't know. The Happy Valentine's Day. Fuck, I don't know.
What was the nicest Valentine's gift you ever got, John? Obviously you weren't murdered, so that's good.
Not
much, right?
sex.
That's it. I guess as a man, you really don't get much, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like let's stick with sex.
All right, with that, we'll leave you. We'll leave you for another week. Hopefully, none of our listeners out there get a nasty Valentine's surprise as the people in our stories tonight.
Just call it chlamydia.
Yes. With that, we'll leave you for another week. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.